What's going on, guys? So, with the offseason right around the corner, I wanted to make a video basically saying what I think the Giants should do and some moves I think they could make this offseason. It's a big one for us. We obviously have the second overall pick, new GM, new coaching staff, everything is fresh. And there's a lot of fun topics to talk about, whether it's Eli Manning restructuring his contract, Odell's extension, or cutting guys like Brandon Marshall to try and free up cap space for the offensive line. So, I tried to dive into that as well as I could. I obviously am not like a real GM or anything, so I try my best to do it and work with the numbers and stuff, and it's probably not all accurate, so just bear with me here and we'll see how it goes. So let's start with some of the new faces at the coaching positions and GM. So first with GM, we go from Jerry Reese, who was with the organization since 1994. He was the GM from 2007 to now, obviously. And we go to Dave Gettleman, who was previously in the Giants organization as a personnel director since the late 90s, and of course left to be the GM for Carolina for a short stint. Next on the coach, we have Ben McAdoo is out, thank God, and we have Pat Shurmur coming in. Shurmur worked with Nick Foles, Case Keenum, Teddy Bridgewater, and Sam Bradford, and he had success with all of them. I'm pretty sure Nick Foles had like a 27-2 touchdown interception ratio with him or something. It was crazy. But the difference between Shurmur and, of course, McAdoo is I think Shurmur knows the strengths of his players and knows how to utilize them. The Giants have a lot of talented offensive players, whether it's Odell, Engram. I think Eli could still sling it a bit, and I think regardless of what he's given, he's going to make the best out of that situation. The Vikings did not have a great offensive line. I think it was 2 years ago, and they pretty much just ran short routes for Sam Bradford, who had like a crazy completion percentage. So it shows you that Shurmur knows how to play to his team's strengths, which really excites me as a fan. As for defensive coordinator, a lot of Giants fans, I think, were just in love with Steve Spagnuolo for whatever reason. And I understand he was the defensive coordinator in 2007 and whatnot, but we have to remember that's a very talented defense. And Spagnuolo, honestly, he wore down Vernon, he wore down JPP, and did not really sub his players in or use creative, blitz schemes or anything. So I think bringing a new defensive coordinator was the right move. And James Bettcher is a guy who it seems like everyone likes him. He was the Cardinals defensive coordinator once Todd Bowles left. So from 2015 to 2017, he was the defensive coordinator and put together some really good years for that Cardinals defense, which does have talent, obviously, but you need to be creative as a defensive coordinator regardless of your talent in order to be good. And finally, Mike Shula. I'm going to be honest, I don't know much about him. I know he came from Carolina, worked with Cam Newton, of course, and I'm really not concerned about it because I think Shermer is going to be the guy calling the plays, or at least majority of them. So I don't really know what kind of impact Shula is going to have, but we'll see, obviously. So when it comes to the offensive side of the ball, I think Shermer is going to have the bigger role. So coming into this offseason and free agency and all that, it is projected that we're supposed to have like $30 million in salary cap space. But after making like my moves and cuts and trades and all that, I was able to get them to about 42 million, but that was before re-signing or even signing free agents. Now for our free agents, there's not many big names here, of course, but the guys that I want to bring back would be Orleans Darkwa, DJ Fluker, Brett Jones, Justin Pugh. I'm going to try and bring back. Bromley's still young, so I'd like to see what he has if we could bring him back. Casillas I wanted to bring back. Canard I would bring back, and Burhay and Cockrell I would bring back as well. So now let's get into how we're going to save money and everything. So when it comes to cuts, I think Brandon Marshall has to leave. That would save us $5.1 million. I just don't think it's worth it, coming off the injury. He's like 34 years old or something. Dwayne Harris has not looked good in like 2 or 3 years, honestly. So I'm fine with letting him walk, saving almost $2.5 million, and let John Jerry walk, who I guess he's had some bright moments, but like overall he's not impressive. So let him walk and try to restructure Eli Manning's deal. I think him making $22 million at this point is kind of just like you don't need it. And I would try to get him down to about $15 million. He still has his signing bonus and all that kind of stuff, so he'll be making more. And I would try to trade Eli Apple for literally anything. I do not care what it is. I don't even care if it's a 7th-round pick, but I just want to get his salary off the books. Even if we can split his salary with another team, I think it's worth it. And if everything goes as I plan, we would save $21.1 million off of these moves. And for the guys I want to bring back, let's start with Orleans Darkwa, who I think was like 10th in the league in yards per carry, behind a pretty bad offensive line, so it was impressive. I like to bring him back for 2 years, about 2.5 million annually. Of course, all these are annual. DJ Fluker, who I think he only played about like 5 or 6 games for us, but he looked impressive. He's a former first-round pick, just a giant dude, and he's really good at run blocking. And when he was in there for us, you could tell our run game was like much more. It was much different because he was a big impact there. And Justin Pugh, I'm a little concerned with the injuries. He has the back injuries, but I think honestly, if you want to change this offensive line, and it's not going to take 1 year, of course, but if you want to get in the right direction, I think signing Justin Pugh for somewhere between 7 and 8 million annually, if you could do it, would be the right move. Jonathan Casillas, I would like to bring back for 1 year. I think he's on the north side of 30, so I'd like to bring him back. He's a good leader, pretty good run stopper as well. Devon Canard, who I think is in his mid 20s, bring him back for 2 years and 2 million annually. I think with Betcher, I think he can get the best out of him. I think he's really good at blitzing, and I don't think the Giants utilize that enough with Kennard. So I think with the right defensive coordinator who knows his style and knows his strengths, I think Kennard can be like a really useful player for us. So I don't want him to go. I'd also bring back Ross Cockrell, who was solid the last few games of the season. He didn't really play much before that, but stepped in and had 3 picks the last 2 games, so I think he can build off of that. I'd also like to keep Nat Burhead for cheap. I think we drafted him like the fourth or fifth round a few years ago, and he's unfortunately not been able to stay healthy. But he's a big hitter and still only 26 years old, so there's room to grow for him. And hopefully the Giants bring him back, and he can fight for that starting job opposite of Landon Collins. So after re-signing our own players, we are left with well, we spent just under $18 million right there. So overall, we're left with a little over 25 million heading into the free agent market. So we'll see what we can do there. Here's just a little list of how the money worked out. I'm not sure if it's all right. I'm not great with math or anything, but I tried my best here. So basically, we have the Giants' current cap space, like right now, and then after my cuts and trades and restructures, that's how much we're left with, and then re-signing people and free agency coming up. So right now, we're left with 25 million, a little over that, just to spend in free agency, and including the draft as well. And also, there's a contract extension that I want to get done in there, so we have to leave some more room for that. So not all of that 25 mil will be spent right here, but here's some guys that I want the Giants to go after in this free agent market. So the guy that I really want to get, along with a lot of Giant fans probably, is Andrew Norwell, who was actually signed by Dave Gettleman in Carolina. He was a undrafted free agent, I believe. His pro football focus grade was 88, very good. He could play left guard for us, very reliable. And he's just the kind of guy we need for this team. Big guy. Gettleman likes those big offensive linemen, and I think he'd be a perfect fit for us. I'd like to get another tackle, and the name I liked the most was Cameron Fleming, or one that was at least reasonable. I think the Patriots are gonna re-sign him in most likelihood, but like if for some reason they let him go, I think he'd be a nice guy to bring to this team. His grade for Pro Football Focus was 78, played right tackle for them, and was pretty good actually. So I don't expect him to leave New England, but if he was to leave, I think he'd be a really nice fit and compete for that starting right tackle spot. So we definitely need linebacker help, of course. We always do for the Giants, but Josh Bynes, I think, is a guy who, not a big name, of course, but I think he's kind of like a hidden gem that we can bring to this team. He played for James Betcher in Arizona last year, and the Cardinals seemed to love him. He made big plays for them, and everyone was raving about how great he was. They brought him in late. I think they signed him last August and was a big help there. So I think if we bring him to New York, he could find a spot here and hopefully cover tight ends because no one could seem to do that in our linebacker core. So I think bringing him in is like a low risk, high reward type thing, and hopefully we do that. And last, we have Prince Amukamara, who I'm sure a lot of Giant fans are familiar with. We drafted him in the first round in 2011. We let him walk a few years ago and went to Jacksonville for more money. But I think Amukamara now at 28 years old had a really good Pro Football Focus rating last year. Was kind of like under the radar. If he can come here for just about 2 mil or so a year, I think it'd be worth it playing across from Janoris Jenkins and letting DRC man the slot and having Ross Cockrell as a backup. So you can never have too much cornerback depth, obviously, as we saw last year. So I think signing Amukamara would not be that bad of a move. And most importantly, please resign Odell Beckham. I cannot stress how much we need this guy. We saw how bad we are without him. In games without him, I think we were outscored like I'm gonna guess like 58-10 or something, like the Cowboy game, and the game he was suspended a couple years ago. He's literally like this whole team. He wins games for us single-handedly. I don't think Giant fans realize how great he is, and they pay too much attention to the distractions and, quote unquote distractions at least. He's a great player on the field. He wants to win, and I cannot see a scenario where he leaves and this team is successful. So I think bringing him back should be Gettleman's top priority right now. So those two games without Odell that I mentioned, yeah, these were the scores: 49-17 and 19-3. And the 17 they scored in the Vikings game was off a garbage time touchdown by Ruben Randall. So let's not make it like 17 was a good outing. So now on to the draft, and I'll admit I'm not like a big college football fan or anything. I probably watch like 5 to 10 games a year. But I think with that second pick, we should take Baker Mayfield. And a lot of people want to compare Mayfield to Manziel, and I honestly hate it because like they're not even close. Everyone wants to compare people off similar looks and everything, but like I don't see how that's even like a thing. Manziel was handed everything. He had the scholarship. He was given the job right away. And Mayfield had to work for everything. No one wanted Mayfield coming out of high school. He had to walk on to 2 different teams and eventually walked on to Oklahoma and became the starter there and was the first Heisman winner to be a walk-on. So this guy came a long way. He knows how to compete. He loves to win. And as Dave Gettleman said in his press conference, I don't want guys who like to win. I want guys who hate to lose. And if that doesn't describe Baker Mayfield, I don't know what does. And I think he'd be a great fit here, especially behind Eli for a year or two. Get time to mature, and his numbers are staggering, and he would be a great fit with Pat Shurmur, and I really think they can make that work. As for the other guys in this mock draft, I'm basically looking at position because I haven't seen any of them play. Taking a running back second round, totally fine with it. I mean, of course, if there's a good offensive lineman sitting there that fell, I would rather take that. But we follow that up with 2 offensive lineman picks and then take a wide receiver. So I'm completely fine with that. Make all of our picks for offense. I think our defense is going to be fine next year. I think a lot of it was not wanting to play for McAdoo and Eli Apple being a cancer, as Landon Collins said it, which could totally bring a whole team down. So I think talent-wise, we're fine on the defensive side of the ball. And offensively, I think we just need creative play calling, which I think Shurmur will bring, and bring some better blocking and protection for Eli. So with all that being said, we're going to look at a depth chart for next year on the offense and defensive side of the ball, and I think it's going to be a pretty good team if it works out. I don't expect to make the playoffs next year right away, but I think it's a step in the right direction. So let's go over everything. Of course, we have Eli Manning. He's going to start at quarterback next year, followed by Baker Mayfield and Davis Webb, who I think is going to be an afterthought at this point. He was McAdoo's guy, and with McAdoo not here anymore, not sure if we'll ever even see the field at all. But on the offensive line, Justin Pugh at left tackle, which may be surprising, but like honestly, who else are we going to get? We can't put Eric Flowers back there. I'm done seeing that. Maybe we can see Chad Wheeler there at left tackle, but not really sure. He played 1 good game there. I think it was the last game of the season last year. Andrew Norwell at left guard. That'd be a great place to have him. The left side of the line is the side I can trust now, and Eli's blind side, which would be huge. Brett Jones was definitely one of the few bright spots on the line last year, so I think bringing him back is absolutely the right move. DJ Fluker, as I said before, he was good in run blocking for us when he played, and I want 3 guys competing for that right tackle spot because there's no one that I think should definitely get it between Fleming, Chad Wheeler, and Eric Flowers. I want all those guys competing. You can't hand Eric Flowers a job, and as we saw last year, doing that. So I hope Pat Shurmur tells all these guys, hey, this right tackle spot is up for grabs. Whoever plays the best is going to get it, and it motivates whoever wants to get it to be the starting right tackle week 1. On to the skill positions. Of course, we have Odell Beckham. Hopefully, he'll be healthy next year. Sterling Shepard at wide receiver 2. He'll probably be the slot. Roger Lewis on the outside, who showed some flashes last year, but the whole team was just awful, so you can't really gauge much. And then Dion Kane out of Clemson, who was part of the mock draft, would be our 4th receiver. We also have Tavares King if we bring him back, or I think Travis Rudolph was his name. I think either of those guys can be a 5th receiver, so we can bring them back for depth, of course. At running back, we have a few pretty good guys. We have Wayne Gallman, who will be in his 2nd year. He showed some flashes last year. I kind of like what I saw from him. Orleans Darkwa was solid. I hope we bring him back. Ronald Jones will be a rookie second-round pick, of course, if we get him. And Paul Perkins, who 2 years ago was supposed to be like the next big running back for the Giants, but got injured last year and was kind of bouncing outside too much and didn't have anywhere to run. So it was kind of a lost year for him. So hopefully he'll get back and be the guy he was a couple years ago. Evan Engram, of course, we know him. He had some really nice catches and some great moments for the Giants last year. Showed a lot of promise. He could be a really, really good tight end. Needs to improve on the blocking, of course, and I don't think his blocking is that bad. I think it's overblown, but if he can get to that Red Ellison blocking, that would be a big thing. And as for Red Ellison, I like what he does. He's a very solid blocker, and he's a reliable target for Eli, so I like having him as well. On to the defense, and this is interesting because with James Bettcher as the new defensive coordinator, we're not sure if they're going to play a 3-4 or a 4-3 defense. I kind of expect them to play both at certain points, maybe depending on what the opposing team's strength is. Let's start with Jason Pierre-Paul, who signed a contract before last season and was very disappointing, to say the least. He had two really big games, which inflated his stats, but that was against like backup offensive linemen, so don't take that into consideration. Snacks Harrison, he's been worth every penny since getting him. Dalvin Tomlinson will be in his second year. Of course, I hope he's improved. His Pro Football Focus grade was pretty high, so I think he's going to be a nice player for us in the future, I hope. Olivier Vernon, he's very productive when he's healthy. He does have a lot of injuries with us, unfortunately. I think he had ankle injuries last year, had a wrist injury as well. Avery Moss as a backup defensive end. He was a middle round pick last year in the draft, and for some reason was inactive a lot for whatever stupid reason. For linebackers, Devon Canard, hopefully we resign him, put him at the outside. B.J. Goodson, who showed flashes for us, could not stay healthy, but he was a good run stopper and a good tackler. Jonathan Casillas, good leader, good run stopper as well. And then Josh Bynes, who we would get in free agency, who hopefully can cover tight ends. They said that's one of his strengths. Cornerbacks, Janoris Jenkins, coming off surgery. I hope he'll be okay. DRC will be in the slot. Ross Cockrell and Prince Amukamara should be the cornerback covering the second wide receivers. And then Eli Apple, no, absolutely not. Get off my team. Tired of seeing him. Between the tweets and his attitude, it cannot happen anymore, so get rid of him. Safeties, Landon Collins. Of course, we know him, great player. Wasn't as good last year as he was the year before, but I think he needs to. Once he learns how to cover tight ends, I think he'll be just unstoppable. Andrew Adams, I would like to see him start next year. He was good 2 years ago and was given the back seat to Darian Thompson, who I think was not good at all last year, to be honest with you. They're both young guys, so hopefully one of them steps up and works really hard this offseason. And then Nat Burhay will also be a backup. I like what I've seen from Burhay. He's a big hitter, but he gets a lot of concussions, unfortunately, and can never stay healthy, it seems like. So hopefully one of those three guys next to Collins could step up, and we'll have ourselves a pretty good secondary. So that'll just about do it. And as you can see, Dave Gettleman's job is not easy. Jerry Reese left him quite a bit of mess here. But it was pretty fun doing this, playing the role of GM and trying to see what you can do with this. And if any of you guys have any different suggestions or different routes to go about this, I would love to hear them, because in the off season it's boring and I already miss Giant football, so doing something like this was fun, and I can't wait for next year. So let's go Giants.